everyone. We are here today for another segment of Chikahan about this issue of the Peanut Gallery Media Network or PGMN. But before anything else, I am your host, Pat, together with our speakers. Please introduce yourselves.
My name is Austin.
My name is CJ.
My name is Vince.
And I'm Chelsea.
Okay, so let's start with discussing ano bang nangyari dito sa PGMN issue. Have you heard about this issue? Would you like to share your thoughts or comments?
I would say the PGMN is also like what she said, it's very important kasi nga yung Peanut Gallery issue kasi mayroon siyang very divisive siya na issue kasi ang nangyari kasi mayroong nakulong si Franco Mabanta, yung so-called na founder and CEO of the Peanut Gallery Media Network. And ang ginawa kasi, kinulong siya dahil merong sinasabi or alleged na setup operation or entrapment operation because Franco Mabanta supposedly attempted to extort a large amount of money, around 300 million pesos, from a renowned politician and very famous politician here in the Philippines, Martin Romualdez. And meron kasing differing viewpoints dito na kailangan natin i-discuss whether Franco Mabanta did the right thing or is Romualdez really free of suspicion and accusations after this particular issue?
Thank you for that interesting comments from our speakers. Would anyone like to add? Okay, if there are none, then let's move on with our next topic that will cover the objectives and facts about the PGMN issue. The first question is, paano nagiging important yung PGMN issue ethically?
I think it's important, lalo na dito sa Philippines. We're on to the news, lalo na sa mga government-related issues. Kasi sabi nga ni Tan kanina, that being a journalist here in the Philippines is hard because not only it is dangerous, but it is also hard because of the government officials targeting you, possibly. And also, kaya siya important kasi para they can inform us of anything that is happening sa government natin, and also kung ano yung magiging opinion natin doon, if positive ba or negative.
Okay, thank you for that answer, Sir Yao, if I'm not mistaken. Would anyone like to add their answers?
I'd also like to add that it's very important to discuss the ethics of this issue because some would argue that Francis Mabanta, or rather, for example, there's this issue that the ends justify the means. So, achieving a good act, or rather, if the benefit is good, then how you achieve that particular effect doesn't really matter. So, to discuss how it particularly relates to this issue is that supposedly there's extortion na nangyayari. So, merong ransom, or rather, there's an implied desire for money to be exchanged to prevent the information from leaking out, essentially. But, we have to understand that it's still an ethically wrong thing to do. Even if, supposedly, Francis Mabanta allegedly did this in order to expose the corruption of the politician Martin Romualdez. However, Martin Romualdez himself is not free from blame or suspicion either, because the entire point was to essentially expose his involvement with the flood control funds issue, which was the misallocation of funds for the flood control projects here in Manila. So at the end of the day, it's a very gray issue, which is why we need to study the ethics of this particular issue very, very thoroughly.
Ayun nga hindi natin may kakailan na napaka-interesting ng topic ito, or rather a hot topic nowadays, because a lot of people are giving their interesting comments or perception kung extortion nga ba ito or just a way to expose the corruption of the government members, particularly Martin Romualdez. So, for our next question, makakover naman ito yung how our speakers analyze the right or wrong of the PGMN issues regarding its virtue ethics. Paano nga ba natutulungan ng virtue ethics na ma-analyze yung issue under the PGMN? Kung ano yung tama or mali?
I think we can use virtue ethics in our daily life, not just in specific terms, by not being biased siguro. Kasi if we only know the one-sided story, how will be sure if what they're telling is true or kung di siya totoo? Kasi if bias naman ikaw sa mga, kunyari, it's your friend that's yung topic about sa kanya, syempre yung friend mo yung parang magiging bias ka dun sa question. So I think we can use this virtue ethics by not being biased. Siguro yung titignan natin is the point of view of each person, hindi lang yung sa isang person lang.
Okay, so tama nga naman yung comment ni Sir Yao na dapat hindi tayo maging bias, dapat tinitingnan natin yung perspective of both sides. Okay, for our next set of questions, it covers the topic of the virtues of media practitioners and students. First question is, what virtues should guide media practitioners when making public claims?
The first virtue that the media practitioners should practice is being truthful and accurate on what they publish in the social media and also what they report in the television.
I'd also like to add that there is a very important thing that by practicing ethics in media specifically, when you're trying to essentially provide information to the media, or rather to the masses, there is supposed to be a truth that can be found through journalism. That is the assumption that all journalists should take.
Okay, thank you for that answer, Sir Valdez and Sir Tan. So, simply ang sabi ni Sir Tan is we should always be straightforward. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So, for our next question, if anyone would like to answer, what virtues do students need when consuming news or social media content, especially to you guys as a college student?
I would say one of the most important things, especially when it comes to virtue, is that you should not go to separate extremes. For example, you should not be too believing, but you should not also be too cynical or distrustful of the news that you see often in, for example, on the internet or on the television. It's always very important to be skeptic, for example, to have a healthy amount of skepticism, but to be capable of discerning when the truth, or rather when the facts line up, and to know when the truth is being presented right in front of you, because there are people who refuse to believe the truth even when it's presented right in front of them. But there are also people who are too gullible when simply someone of influence is guiding them towards the wrong conclusion to take, which is very important because students are very young people and their moral compasses may not be fully developed yet, or they simply do not know the ways of the world as much as adults do. So it's very important to build a strong foundation of ethics and virtues at a very young age.
Okay, thank you. I think we've covered all our topics and questions for today. Now let's move on naman with the question, ano ba yung natutunan natin sa segment natin ngayon?
Alright, so I would say that I really learned a lot of important things today kasi nga, it's a very gray issue and hindi naman talaga natin masisay who's right and who's wrong without gathering all of the facts. So the important thing na matututunan natin is that even if you're, like syempre lahat naman tayo may personal bias, diba? Kasi ako personally, I would say that the politicians here in the Philippines are not in line with my current moral values. However, it's very important to understand na we have to stay objective when it comes to very big issues like these. Kasi at the end of the day, kung hindi mo kaya maging objective, mas mahihirapan ka rin when it comes to determining different situations in life in general.
Ang natutunan ko naman is kailangan nating maging responsible and always weigh down kung ano yung mga claim nila, kasi as a student, hindi na talaga natin makakailala na meron talagang silang sariling truth na kinakampihan. So, it's also our responsibility to cross-check first and also practice prudence, because there's always right and wrong. And then, also we need to practice the virtue ethics, because the things that we do online also reflects what we truly are.
For me naman, natutunan ko today is that being true, hindi lang sa sarili, kundi sa ibang tao na din. Kasi ang ethics nga is not a subjective, pero objective nga siya, as Stan said. Pero dapat din gawin natin as a responsible student yung mga kung paano natin i-check kung ang isang bagay is truthful or isang bagay is fake. And natutunan ko naman dito sa topic namin na kinuha today is that not all things na marinig natin is always true, but it's our responsibility to ourselves is to check if the information that we are getting from today's media is legitimate, or is it just parang may ganito na lang, may ng mga media.
Ang natutunan ko today is to double check and fact check the information we see online. So, kasi yung ibang publications na nakikita natin online is fabricated, and sometimes ang mga nagpo-post nito is mga bias pages, like they were supporting this specific politician, like they want to make his image good to the public. So yeah, so we need to verify this information we saw in the social media, and also hindi tayo dapat maging bias towards this specific politician. Why? Because at the end of the day, hindi pa rin natin masasabi na malinis sila as a politician, even though you can see their actions and resolutions na masasabi natin nakakatulong sila sa ibang tao, but there will be always hidden agendas behind those good actions na pinapakita nila sa public.
Okay, thank you for that. I would also like to conclude na yes, you guys are correct. We should always fact check, as mentioned earlier, or legit check before the informations you see online before kayo mag-conclude. Kasi this informations online also shapes yung yung perspective ng mga tao to kung saan sila kakampi in between two parties. Kagaya nitong topic natin today, which is the issue about the PGMN. Okay, thank you. That's all for our segment today. Thank you, speakers, and thank you for the viewers out there. And how about you guys? What's your take on the PGMN issues? Please leave it down below in the comment section. And click that bell button for you to get updated for our next segment.